I used to live paycheck to paycheck, have a ton of debt, not even care. Okay. I had no direction. I had no goals. I was just existing in life. But my life took a huge turn when I started being more intentional with my finances, when I started thinking about my finances, more specifically, what I was doing with my debt, which was just, hey, let's just make the minimum payment, which was not working. And once I realized that just a little extra money every month towards my debt made a huge impact on not only saving money, but saving time, becoming debt free way sooner. And the tools and strategies that I'm about to talk about in this video helped me and my wife pay off $43,000 of debt in just 13 months. And last year in 2024, my wife and I surpassed a $1 million net worth. Again, it's from everything that I'm going to talk about in this video. So if you're sitting there and you feel stuck with your finances, you feel like there's no progress being made, you're in the right place. And let's just jump right into the first part, which is how we don't need, how we don't need to be taking more money to our, like it doesn't take a lot more to make stuff happen with our debt. Okay. So this is the debt payment calculator. And if you want to follow along, it's in the description of this video. You can download it for yourself, completely free, of course. Let me just make this a little bigger for you guys. And how this works, I'm going to kind of do like a half tutorial, but a half, showing you that it actually doesn't take a lot more. And then towards the end, I'm going to show you how we find the money in our finances. Cause you're probably sitting there like, well, that's great, Chris, that, pay a little extra money towards your debt and it goes away faster. But how do I find the money? So we're going to talk about both, but I want to show you the impact that having a little extra money towards your debt every month has. So this is the input section. So I've just entered some random information here. And I coach a lot of people with their personal finances. So what I'm finding is like one or two credit cards, a student loan, and then maybe like a personal loan or a car loan. Okay. So this is kind of like a pretty good uh, kind of grouping of what people have. Okay. So our current balances of all our debts are here. It totals $55,000. I have the interest rate for each of the debts, and I have the minimum payments for each of the debts. And this totals $575. And this number is very important. Okay. We're going to go down here. And this section, monthly payment. So how much are we putting towards our debt every month? Now, let's just assume for right now that we are putting $575 towards our debt, which is the minimum payment. Okay. And what this section is how much extra money is being applied to our debt. That's what the initial snowball section is. So since we're making exactly the minimums, the extra money being applied to our debt is zero. Now, a lot of people just do this. They do the, hey, I have debt. Hey, the lender tells me that I owe this amount of money. So these are the amount, this is what I'm going to pay every month. And here's what happens when you do that. Okay. Down here, this is where it starts to get fun. This is more of the calculator section. So again, we have our debt types, we have our original balances, and you can see here that the calculator kind of broke because this only goes through 360 months or 30 years. Okay, 30 years. And what this is saying is this is going to take longer to pay off than 40 years. So if we have debt, and 55,000 is the example that I'm using, but only paying the minimum payments is not a strategy, guys. This is like the absolute bare bones minimum. So first of all, if you're not paying minimums, we have to find a way to get at least up to the minimums. And I'll show you the reverse impact that what I'm about to show you has. But we have to do more, and here's why. Okay. So let's just say I want to make it. I want to see if I like add a couple dollars. Okay, so even just $1 fixed it. Hold on. Perfect. Okay, so now the calculator, now all the line items are here, so I can kind of show that to you. So we have our debt totals. Okay, this is showing how much interest we'll be paying for each of the line items over the length of the loan. Right, you can see that these are pretty huge amounts. How many months it's going to take off to pay off each of these based on the criteria that we've entered, and then the month and year associated with those number of months. So as you can see, you've probably seen some of these numbers down here, pretty wild. Okay. So in this example, if we have $55,000 worth of debt, the total interest that we're going to be paying by making minimum payments, for a long time is $140,000, guys. So you might be sitting there thinking like, okay, I have $55,000 of debt. It's a lot, but like, not a big deal, right? Well, actually, if you add the $55,000 to the 140, you actually have $195,000 that you have to pay off for this debt in the lifespan of your loans. So I'm recording this in February 2025, and our debt-free date based on all this is April 2053. So for those of you doing the math at home, that's about 28 years. Okay, which is it's not good. So if we're trying to be serious about paying down our debt, $55,000 is a lot, but it should not take us 28 years to pay it off. Okay, 28 years. So here's how just applying a little extra money can be significant. So I'm going to scroll down a little bit so we can see all of this. I'm going to type in 675. And what I want you to do is look at these numbers changing down here. Look at the total interest paid. So right now it's at the like 140. The debt-free date is April 2053. I'm going to hit enter, and these numbers are going to surprise you. That is not a typo. Was it exactly like $100,000? $100,000 of interest gone for an extra $100 a month. Why? Because the $100 a month are going to be, it's basically going to be helping obviously pay down the debt faster, but because interest is such a killer when it comes to debt, it's attacking the interest rates first. And there's two strategies I did not talk about either of the strategies. Right now we're using the avalanche method, which this calculator will rank your debts in order of highest interest rate to lowest interest rate. And what's going to happen is it's going to prioritize the highest interest rate first. So what this strategy does is now this extra $100 is attacking the loan with the highest interest rate. And as you can see, we had a pretty high credit card here. So the extra $100 in the first 71 months to pay this off is going right to that first credit card. And then as soon as this is paid off, all the money that we're putting towards credit card one is going into the next highest interest rate to pay that off. Okay. And the other strategy is the snowball method. And as you can see, some of the stuff shifted around here. So the calculator is going to prioritize the loans from smallest loan to largest loan. So what's going to happen is this extra money is going to be applied to the smallest loan. So again, in this case, we have a loan that's $9,000. Okay. And it's going to be attacking that one first. The benefit here is you're likely going to be paying off the first one earlier than you would with the avalanche, but it will be a little more costly. As you can see, the snowball is $58,000 of interest, and the avalanche was $39,000 of interest. Okay. But back to the extra $100, right? So if you remember, this debt-free date was 2053. So it cut off not only $100,000, which is like, whoa, whoa, but it also cut off 17 years, 18 years, 17 years of being in debt. 17 years. So basically think about you from zero to, we'll call it graduating high school. That's how long it's going to take you, or that's how much time you're going to be saving in your life of getting out of debt. And it's because we applied an extra $100, right? It's crazy. It's crazy. And so here's my to-do list for you. Okay. If you're not making the minimums, we have to find a way to get to the minimums. And the second part of this live stream is I'm going to go through and show you step by step exactly how to find more money in your own personal finances without getting a second job or a side hustle or, selling anything weird from your basement on the internet. So that is number one on your checklist. See how much you're paying towards your debt. Make sure you're doing something consistently. And it's not like, hey, this month I'm paying, this month I'm not paying, this month I'm paying. We have to be consistent. We have to come up with this consistent schedule. We have to be able to get to these minimum payments. It's significant. Now, since the calculator broke, sorry, I'm all over the place with the scroll. Since the calculator broke with this, what I want to do is just reduce one of these debt amounts just to show you. So let's say now, okay, this is like, I don't know, just make up a number. Oops. It was fine. Okay. $65. That was fine. So let's just say now our debts are $38,000. And I'm going to show you why I did that in a second because I want the calculator to work. And it does. The same impact that adding an extra $100 has is what is the same impact negatively if we don't reach our minimum payments. So let's say, for example, let's look at these stats right now quickly. So with our new information of $38,000 in minimum payments, our total interest paid is going to be $58,000. The debt-free date, October 2038. Okay. What would happen if we weren't paying the minimums? And let's say we were paying an extra $100 less, right? So as you can see, that just broke the calculator. This is saying $100 less, and it's going to add at least 17 years to this because it'll go through 2055 before breaking. So basically saying it's going to add an extra 17 years. So to me, that's really impactful that we have to get to our minimums. We have to. And then once we're at our minimums, we have to find a way to just scrap and claw and get more, put more money to paying off our debt. It's significant, guys. Imagine if you were to put that extra $100,000 that we talked about earlier into some sort of asset that you can grow, like some sort of investing vehicle, the investing vehicle of your choice, right? Because I don't really talk about investing on this channel, but it's so impactful. Okay, so smash the like button, by the way, if you've gotten this far and you've found value and this is like a big shock for you. Again, all this is down in the description of the video. It's completely free. It's just here to help you figure out your numbers. So we're going to go into the budget template now, and this is the budget template. We're going to talk about how to. I'm going to sharing my screen really quickly. We're going to talk about now how we find the money in our finances to be able to add more money to our debt. Because again, you're probably sitting there like, wow, this is great, but like I already feel like I'm paycheck to paycheck, or I don't feel like I have extra money at the end of the month to make this happen. And what we're basically going to do is look at our spending, align it with our financial goals, and then merge the two, and we're going to kind of see what happens here. So I'm going to share my screen again. Back on the budget template, but there is one activity that we need to do before we even think about creating a budget for the next month. And that's called the 3-month look back. I'm going to make this bigger again. Perfect. So the 3-month look back. What this is, if the name isn't obvious, we are looking back 3 months of our expenses. And specifically, you can do this with all your expenses if you would like, but specifically, we want to focus on the variable expenses. Okay. So think things like groceries, gas, utilities, things that you buy every single month, but it fluctuates every month, right? You don't go to the grocery store. It's not the same amount of money every month for your groceries, right? So we want to figure out, okay, where are we spending our money? And that's just kind of the first step. So again, I'm recording this in February. So I would be looking at November, December, January transactions. So however you spend money, whether it's with a credit card or with a debit card or even with cash, if you're, if you want to start tracking that. And we chunk it up into, any applicable expense categories that you have in your life. I just have some examples here. But you're going to have different ones. It's not a big deal. You can set this up however you want. All these can be changeable. And again, budget template down in the description of this video for you to download for free and try it out yourself. So once we go through all of those, and by the way, I'm not going to sugarcoat this. This process is going to be extremely annoying, and it's going to probably take some time because you're looking at 3 months of your expenses, especially if you've never done this before. You're going to go back, and it's going to take time to go through it and then to kind of categorize it. But what this does is it gives us data of our spending habits, which is really, really important. This, if you've never done this before, we need to know where our money is going first. And then we start to make a plan of, okay, our money has been going here, but where do we want it to go? And we're going to talk about that in a second. So, and what this now is the point where we say like, okay, where's our money been going? And the people that I'm coaching are usually shocked with at least one expense category. They're like, wow, I can't believe I was spending this much in this expense category. Okay. And spoiler alert, it's always this one: dining out and food delivery. It's almost always 8 or 9 out of 10 people. It's always this like, wow, I wasn't expecting to see such a high amount. Cause it's just true. You get like a weekly, food delivery thing, or you go to like a quick, I don't know, you go to a quick little thing, you just like forget about it, right? You stop at Wendy's, whatever, right? You kind of forget. And then a month goes by because a month's a long time. And you think about maybe the bigger impact things, but you're not thinking about the 15, the 35, the $40 transactions that you had. Sorry about that. So everyone's going to have their own categories. For me, when I did this back in the day, and I practice what I preach. So I'll go through a brief story quickly, but I've done this recently and I've done this in the past as well. But for me, it was groceries. And not that groceries is like, wow, I was spending too much. I completely undershot how much I was spending, because what was happening was we would, me and my wife, we would do a big trip on a day during the week or whatever, a weekend, and then we'd go like 2 or 3 times during the week. And in my head, I had the numbers of like, oh, okay, I was just thinking about the weekly trips that we went on, right? The weekly grocery trips. And I had those numbers in my head. And then when we did this, it's like, whoa, like there was extra, 100 or $200 a month. It's like, what? How did that happen? But you forget about all the things. This is why we track it. And these are just example numbers, by the way. These aren't anyone's numbers. They're not my numbers or anything. So yeah, that's what we're going to uncover here. It's like, okay, where's our money going? And now it's okay. Where do we want our money to be going, right? So if you're watching this video, it's because you want to apply more money to your debt, I'm assuming. So what you want to do, and I'm actually going to move my mic really quickly so I can get my keyboard, is however you want to do this. I'm just going to like kind of do this down here. I want you to make a list of the things that are most important to you in your life. So this could be financial goals, this could be life goals. Doesn't really matter to your list, okay? And these are the things that you want to write down. They're the most important to you. They're either things that you're doing now or goals that you're trying to achieve in the future, okay? And what we want to do with this list is make sure that we are attacking the list with not only our money, but our time, our effort, the sacrifices that we make, okay? And I like to call these North Star goals. So you don't have to do it on the sheet. You could do it wherever you want. But you could do things like, oh yeah, I want to pay down my debt, right? You could say, I don't know, pizza night Friday, right? I don't know. Maybe you've like, it's a family tradition. You're like, we're definitely not giving this up. I don't know. There was one person that I was working with on his personal finances, and he said he liked, not liked, but he been going to this haircut guy for like 2 decades. And he's like, the guy, he's basically family, but they're really expensive haircuts. But it's like kind of a non-negotiable. Like I'm not going to not go. And he was telling me almost like he was trying to convince me. And I was like, dude, it's your list. You like put the thing on your list. So if expensive haircuts is on your list, then it's on your list. Okay. So you get the point. It's a list of 2, 5, 10 things, whatever it is. If you have kids, it's like, kids, right? Whatever. Yeah. You get the point. Okay. And then you look back up here and it's like, okay, what things are aligning to those goals? So like, okay, great. So maybe like in this activity section is where you do like your kid stuff. So like, okay, cool. Yep. We are kind of doing that. Another one I like to put on here is like health, fitness. Okay. But then you could look up here and be like, oh, health and fitness is really important to me, but I'm only spending $60 a month. Like, is this an area that I could actually spend more in? I know we're trying to think about how do I find more money in our finances, but what we actually want to shift, because I think if you call this a budget, I'm going to stop sharing for a second because I think this is really important. If you call this a budget, what happens is in your brain, I think I'm a little delayed on the live stream, but in in your brain, you're going to tell yourself that a budget equals restriction. And I think that's super common for everyone. It's like the B word that you can't say. It's like Lord Voldemort, right? In the Harry Potter series. It's a swear word. You just can't say it. But a budget does not mean restriction. A budget just means intentionality, right? So a budget doesn't tell us what we cannot do with our money. And I think that's what a lot of people are afraid of. It's going to say, oh, I actually can't do the things that I want to do. No, we want to have the budget show us what we can do with our money. So it's like, okay, um, and we're going to get to the actual budget in a second, but like if you make X dollars, it's like, okay, this is the money that I have to work with on my budget. So it's not, oh man, I have such a low income, I can't do the things that I want. It's okay, I make this amount of money. How can I fit the things that are most important to me in my life with my income? Okay. So let's get back in here. So what we want to do after this, after we've done some realignment, right, is start thinking about, okay, what's our new budget amount going to be? So here's our average for each of the categories. And now what's our new budget amount going to be? So what I'm going to do first is just copy paste the averages over. They're not going to stay like that, but just so that um, this is clear. And then we can kind of go down the list. So the first thing is like, well, yeah, health and fitness. Yeah, it's one of my top 5 things in my life. I'm saying it's really important to me. I want to spend more time into it. So I think I need to spend a little more money. So instead of $63 a month, which could be like a membership and then I don't know, some other supplements or whatever, it's like, you know what, I'm just going to bump this up to $100. I really think it's important to me. I got to find a way to like spend more time, money, and effort on my health and fitness to make this happen. And then you could look and be like, well, you know what? While I put, pizza night Friday on here, like this is out of control. The spending, like this doesn't align with really much. So I'm going to make this, I don't know, $100 a month. And we can just start with this and kind of see how that works. Maybe we'll just say 150 because, whatever. But then you're like, well, if I've spent all this on food delivery, I probably, and I'm cutting back on that, I probably need to have more money, more food in my house to, cover those meals, right? So it's instead of the 750 with groceries, like maybe it's like, well, maybe I need to actually bump this up a little bit to kind of counteract all the eating out that I did to fill that space, right? So you just kind of have to start thinking about it like that. And now, as you can see, as I'm changing things, these monthly savings are the colors changing. So anytime you go over your average, it's going to turn red. And anytime you go under, it's going to turn green. But red doesn't necessarily mean bad, right? Just to be clear, like we just went through 2 examples where like groceries plus dining out, you're at a net positive, right? So you're at a net like $130 in the positive. So that's great. And then health and fitness, it's like, well, this is just a non-negotiable for me. It's very, very important. Right. And then you could even look at like, okay, activities with the kids. Like, I feel pretty good here. Like, yeah, maybe we could even do more. I don't know. That's really important to me. We can do like 125. And then shopping, these are all just kind of silly items. So we'll just say like, yeah, like maybe we need stuff for the kids. We'll just say $100 a month, and we'll really try to focus in on that. And the rest of it, you could say like, oh, the rest of it seemed reasonable. We'll just kind of leave the averages and see where it is. It's like, great. So now after we do that, one of the important things of this step is the why behind your new dollar amount. Because anyone could just say like, oh, okay, I have to spend less here, or oh, okay, I think I should try to spend more here, or oh, okay, this expense is aligning. Anyone could just say that, but you have to kind of put reasoning behind it. So the why could be like, well, reckless spending / lazy, putting money toward debt, right? Whatever. And then it's like, well, more groceries due to less dining out. Okay. And then this is like, well, this is a North Star goal of mine. So that's really important to me. This is a North Star goal. I need to bump this up, right? And you get the point. So you could just kind of do the same thing here. Okay, whatever. Because now that you've created this list of North Star goals, this is going to be like your filter for all decisions. So if a thing happens in your life or a opportunity comes up, we'll call it, and you're sitting there like, well, does this help me reach or, obtain one of the North Star goals that I've created for myself? If the answer is yes, then obviously you do that thing. If the answer is no, or maybe even if it's like neutral, like, well, it's not going to yes, it's not going to no, but maybe you reevaluate the ones that are neutral or it's not going to. And that's kind of how it filters in, at least my mind when I'm doing this, where is it going to help me achieve the thing? Yes or no? And that's how it kind of works for me. So once we go through all that, again, we see all these numbers accumulating over here. So that exercise that we just went through, we were able to find $180 a month in our finances, which is awesome. Now you could go through this exercise and be like, let's say, for example, you go through and it's like $40. You could either go through it again. Basically what I'm saying is don't give up on the process because you're new to this. So what I see a lot of the times, and I'll stop sharing again for a second. What I see a lot of the times when people are going through that process is they get it's so exciting to see, I'll call it like fake money. And by that, I mean, yes, in that example, we found $180 in our finances, but it's not real money until like you have to take the actions to be able to get that money, right? Yeah, I'm lagging today on the live stream. Sorry, guys, if you're watching this, but so people get really excited and they just like cut a bunch of things, right? But it's not sustainable for them, and they're obviously not going to be able to stick to it. So it's either like it's so much extra money that's just not sustainable, or it's so little because it's hard to like break out of the habits that you're in. So even if you see some like a category, it's like, wow, I've kind of overspent here, but it's like I kind of like it, or like it's gonna be hard for me to do it, right? I was working with this one guy on his personal finances, and we were going through his budget similar to this. We were going through the 3-month look back, and one of his line items that he put, it said retail therapy. And at the time, I honestly didn't know what that meant. So I asked him, and he's like, oh, yeah. So every time I get anxious or sad or whatever, I buy a thing off of Amazon or off the internet that makes me happy. I'm like, okay. So this line item for him, it was like multiple hundreds of dollars a month. So it was like $200, $300, 100 something bucks. It was like an average of $200 something a month. So it was like, okay, again, I'm all for mental health. Like personally for me, that's why I like to work out. But so it was, it might not be the healthiest habit to pick up that every time you are sad or anxious or have an emotion, you buy something to like fulfill yourself. And I asked him, I was like, okay, well, I understand. What kind of things are you buying when you do this? Like, just out of curiosity. And he kind of like looked down and he was thinking for a second. He looked back up and he's like, I have no clue. And I was like, you have no clue. Like we were looking at like his last month and when we were doing it. So it was like 2 weeks ago from the last time he did one of these, or 1 week ago. So it was like very recent. And he just didn't remember the stuff that he bought. Cause in the moment he was just like, well, this is going to make me happy. And then life goes on and you just forget about the things you buy. And you're like, well, why am I living paycheck to paycheck? Why do I have almost no money in my bank account? It's like, well, because you don't have a process in place. Okay. And that's what this entire thing that I'm trying to do here is help you create a process. So let's share this back. I'm just going to take a quick drink. Okay. So if you remember in the beginning of the live stream, we were talking about how do we find that extra $100, right? And let's put it back to our regular example. How do we find that extra $100? Well, this is what we did. So now what's going to happen is for the month that you first create your budget. So these are, again, just a reminder, these sections over here are the last 3 months. And then this new budget amount for the variable expenses are going to be for your new budget that we're going to create. And we're going to do it right now. So this section is actually going to flow into the next month's budget. So let's just say, for example, February monthly budget. As you can see, let me make this slightly smaller. Cool. These are all the amounts and the expense categories that we added for the variable expenses. So just to show you here, the total is $1,647.34. Oh, shopping. Hold on, the formula. Oop. There we go. So 1747.34, 1747.34, right? Awesome. And what I did, before the live stream to save you guys some time is I entered some fake information for fixed expenses, financial goals, and the debt. And actually, these debt amounts line up to our example on the debt calculator. Okay. So let's just say, for example, that you live in a house and you and your significant other, you make 4 paychecks in a month. And let's just say it comes out to $6,800 a month. So the reason why this budget is so powerful is it's backed by the strategy. It's called zero-based budgeting strategy. And basically how this works is every dollar that comes in, it already has a predetermined home. So think about it like if you're going to a concert or a sporting event, you come with a ticket and you have a seat, unless it's standing room only, right? No. You come with a predetermined seat where you would go and you sit down and that's your seat. You have a ticket to prove that it's your seat. That's how I want you to think about every single dollar that walks into your bank account. So you are the event staff, right? You're checking tickets at the door. I want you to be checking to make sure that every dollar that comes in has a ticket and you know where that dollar is going to be sitting in your finances. Okay. So if that makes sense, let me know. That's kind of the best way I can think about it. Cause it's like, you have 20,000, or in this case, $6,800 going to an event and we need to know where they're going to sit. Okay. So that's why we like to do this budget ahead of time. So the total budget, $6,814. That's how many dollars we need to spend and budget for. First budget and then spend. We need to budget for in every month. And I think the problem that a lot of people wrong when they're budgeting is they don't prioritize their financial goals or they don't think about their financial goals. So if that's you, let me know in the chat or afterwards down below in the comments. But so here's what I'm seeing a lot of people do, the people that I'm coaching, okay? They go through their life, they have their what everyone calls their need items. So the things that you need to live on. So the roof over your head, utilities, etc. And then there's the want items. So those are the things that are less important, okay? And then we have our financial goals. So there's a decent rule of thumb. It's called the 50-30-20 budgeting rule. So 50% of our income is allocated towards need items, 30 is want, and 20 is financial goals. And what happens is people go through the month and they do their need stuff and their want stuff, and it's the end of the month, and then all of a sudden they're like out of money. They can't put extra money towards their debt, or they can't put money towards savings. It feels like their bank account is always near zero, or just like it's never going up. It's just kind of like every month the same thing happens every single month, and it's because we're not prioritizing the financial goals. So here's how I want you to think about it. Instead of just thinking about your need items and your want items as like, oh, this is my life, I got to pay for these things. How do we prioritize the financial goals? Well, we have to plan for them. We need to give them tickets to our arena, right? We need to assign them a seat in our finances. So that's done here in this budgeting tab, okay? So let's just say these are the debt amounts. So 300, 120, 65, and 90. And these are the minimum payments, 3, 120, 90, and 65, right? So 575, 575. Okay, perfect. We are budgeting for the minimum payment, which again, that's the bare minimum that we need to do. It's not a strategy though. We need to find a way to do more. In this scenario, I've also found a way to budget for an emergency fund for $150, okay? And let's say you have no savings, right? So this is like, hey, how do you throw it on here as a budget. And now what's happening is all of these categories are totaling up. And this budget template is going to show us how much money we have left to budget. So what it's going to do is take our total budget amount of $6,800. It's going to subtract the budget, the total of the budget. So it's $6,800 minus this. Scroll up a little bit, minus this, minus that, minus that, minus that. And it's coming up with this. We have $175 extra left to spend. And isn't that ironic? We found essentially $181. So let's just say we hadn't done this exercise. Okay, and we go back here. We've actually, right, and now we're basically at zero. So this means we've budgeted $6 more than our income allowed us to. So this, in my opinion, is how a lot of people feel when they go through every month. They go through, they do all the stuff, and they just don't have any money left over to do stuff. So we're going to go back to our original thing. So great. We went through we went through the month. We were budgeting for the credit cards, all the debts. We're going to see if we could save some money, right? That would be great. So let's say you go through the month. So our fixed expenses here, great. Oops. We know that that's not going to change, right? Because they're fixed. So these are going to be the actual amounts. Let's say for right now, we just make our minimum payments like we've been doing just to kind of see how it shakes out. And then since this is like our first month budgeting, I'm just going to do this. And then let's say like, you know, our groceries go up a little bit. So it's like $9.25 because we underestimated how much we needed to have for dining out. We ended up still doing more in dining out than what we wanted to. And then shopping, we ended up doing more than what we wanted to. Okay. And now it's like, oh, okay, up here, it's showing us our leftover money. So based on the $6,800 that we have for our budget, again, this is going to take the income, which is this, minus all of the actuals that we've spent money on. So the fixed, the variable, financial goals, and debt. So as you can see, you know, if it was our first time, we think it went pretty well, right? We overspent on a couple categories, or I should say we were over budget on a couple categories. So we didn't have as much money left that we, you know, wanted to budget, right? So in order to clear these out, we have to budget for $175 extra, and the leftover money is $115. So let's say you're like, ooh, yeah, so I need to budget for, well, I want to budget that extra $100 towards the credit card, okay? And then 75 left, we'll just like shove it in groceries, okay? And now we have $0 left to budget, which is great. And that should turn green. So I'm not sure why that did not. No problem. So now that that's zero, we have our leftover money of $115. So now we have to make a tough choice. It's like, okay, well, we've already spent money on all this stuff. We wanted to put money towards savings. We wanted to put the extra $100 towards debt. So like, what do we do? Okay. And this is kind of a predicament that a lot of people have. Do I save money? Do I pay down debt? And I'm going to, I would say it depends on the person, but I'm going to give you a little analogy to hopefully help you kind of figure out maybe what I would do. And it depends on your situation. If you have zero savings, here's how I would think about the emergency fund and putting money towards this first. Think about your favorite video game. Okay. Think about your favorite, you know, video game where the main character has a health bar. How about that? So you're going through the level, you can kind of visualize the game, right? You're walking through, you're doing the campaign mode or whatever. And then all of a sudden you're getting attacked out of nowhere. The screen's flashing, your health bar is going down, sirens are going off, whatever. In the game, in your experiences, what have you done? Do you push through the level or do you stop and you figure something out? And the context there is the health bar is our emergency fund. And the end of the level is the financial goal. So in this case, let's call it paying off debt. So your health bar is going down, meaning your emergency fund, something, you have to buy 4 new tires. Boom, that's the attacking that's happening, right? Now, do you try and keep going towards, you keep paying off debt, you keep paying off debt, you keep living life, or do you go behind the rock in the corner of the video game and you find the med kit and you kind of stabilize your health bar, your emergency fund, and you wait for all the bad stuff to go away, right? The unexpected expenses, and then you carry on your way. What the in the example, when you push through and you don't make it, like you die in the game, you have to go back to the last checkpoint or even like the start of the level. And I see that all the time where people are making good progress every single month and then they don't have a plan for unexpected expenses. And guess what happens? An unexpected expense happens. And it sets them back. So they could be like making great progress for 3 or 4 months. And then like an $800 thing comes up and they don't have savings for it. They don't have extra like money for it. So they have to go into debt to pay it off. And it's just a vicious cycle where it's like you're trying to get out of debt and then you put yourself back in debt and all the work that you had done in the last 3 or 4 months just goes away, or it's like worse off than it was before. So to answer the question, I would, if you've never saved before, I would challenge you to build up an emergency fund, even if it's a small one to start, and just build a habit of saving. So if you get paid weekly, how can you find a way to save $25 of your paycheck every week? If you get paid biweekly, how can you find a way to save $50 out of that paycheck every time? Because while those amounts will not make us rich, those amounts will help us from going backwards. And it might not seem like it, like, how is $25? That doesn't do anything for me. The money doesn't build accounts. Okay. Habits do. Habits are what make our accounts grow and feel significant. If you don't have the habits, you're not going to have the money in there because you're going to keep going through this vicious cycle of going through the month, ran out of money, going through the month, ran out of money, going through the month, emergency fund. Now I'm going backwards. I'm in debt again. And it's just like, it's chaotic. So we have to find a way to save. We have to build a habit to save every paycheck, ideally. And that way you're building the habit. And so to answer the long-winded way of saying saving or debt, if you have no savings, saving. And I know I just went through that whole example of how great an extra $100 is towards your debt, but we have to create a sustainable plan going forward. We can't do this like herky-jerky thing where it's like, wow, I'm making great progress on my debt. It's been 4 months and then a $1,500 thing comes and you're way back again because you're in debt. And then just like, well, how do I get out of this? You have to save. So start building the habit. Don't worry about the articles that you see online that say, a proper emergency fund is 3 to 6 months. It is, by the way. That's great. Everyone, that's great. If you're going to go online, you're going to see all these copy paste articles. They're all going to say the same thing. 3 to 6 months, you would feel pretty safe. But after doing this exercise, for example, and you look at 3 to 6 months, you're like, wow, 3 to 6 months of my expenses, let's call it like $6,500. How am I going to save 20,000 to 36,000? Like, it's like this crazy amount of number. Like, no, you're not going to feel like you can do it if you've never saved before, because it's like, well, this isn't for me. If I have to save $20,000, how the hell am I going to do that? So think a little smaller at first. I know everyone says think big, but like if you thinking like, wow, in order to be like regular with my emergency fund, I have to have 30K in there. It's going to sound ridiculous. So what is your number that would protect yourself from most of the things that happen in your life? So like, again, we're talking about like tires blowing or whatever. Is it $500? Is it $1,000, $2,000, whatever that dollar amount is? That's what I want you to fund. So first, let's just say it's $500. Let's just to like build up the habit. How much more comfortable would you feel if you had $500 than zero every month? And then from there we go, okay, 500 to 1,000. And then you slowly build it up over time. So that's what I would do first. We don't want to go backwards. We want we want to be the person that maybe takes a little longer, goes behind the rock instead of like going through the level up back to the checkpoint, through the level back to the checkpoint. So I hope that all makes sense. Um, what I didn't talk about at all, and I wanted to do it now, is so I have a free course and community that go through this entire process, and I'm helping people in here every day. The group's growing. The last week we've had 10 or 15 new people in here, which is really really great. Everything is free, by the way. This is a free course. My time is free in here, so right now I'm taking free strategy calls with all new members. So it's, we get to introduce ourselves, we get to talk about your financial goals, and then we can see how this community and the tools that I have and the strategies can help you. Okay. I just wanted to show you a recent message from one of the people in my group because it was really, really powerful, and she's been absolutely crushing it. This is from Janine. I'm about to finish up my first month while using Chris's budget spreadsheet, and I actually feel like I have control and knowledge around my finances. Although not perfect, I'm no longer burying my head guesstimating where my money is and where it's going. I feel like having him help those financial demons of months past gave me clarity and allowed me to take the first steps to begin creating freedom and wealth. I'm so grateful for you and your approach. I've worked with 3 other financial people and have never gotten this far in the process. 1 credit card paid off, 4 to go just in the first month. No more financial messiness and an organized plan to stay on task and aware. Chris kept it so simple by breaking the process into small, achievable tasks with accountability. So grateful to have found someone who actually makes it make sense. Now, that was really, really cool. Like, it's really cool that when I help people like that, that's why I do this, guys. Like, again, there's zero monetary involvement right now. Like, there is $0 in it, except for dollar discipline. But I'm not taking anyone's money for any help. So like, I've been helping people right now for sometimes there's a couple occasions I've been helping people for 6-7 months, just like trying to get them on track and helping them and being the accountability person that, they need. So again, that link is in the description as well. So it's school.com/debt. Okay. And yeah, so we just have, a couple training videos in here. This is the homepage that you'll see it. Okay. But yeah, look at all the people in here. So we just saw Janine, Angie, Steve, and Zane. Shannon's in here. Sandy, like it's growing, guys. And it's people that are trying to be more intentional with their finances with the goal of paying off their debt faster and more efficiently so that they can, start applying their money towards better financial goals. So think like saving for your retirement. We personally have 2 kids, so putting money towards your kids' education, right? Wealth is not built through debt. And I guess some people will say it is. I don't have an extreme take on it, but I'm not a Dave Ramsey where it's, hey, no debt at all. And I'm also not like someone that's in, commercial real estate where you're just like, you're always in debt. You're just like borrowing, right? Whatever. So I'm somewhere in the middle. I think that's where probably most people should be. Debt. So like my wife and I use credit cards, but we pay them off and we have a mortgage. So I have debt because of the mortgage, right? But all the consumer debt is gone. And that's kind of what I want to be able to help people do. Get their consumer debt gone so that they can have money to apply towards the next financial goal. And that's quite honestly, guys, when my wife and my net worth like shot up. So we paid off those debts, the $43,000, I think like 6 years ago now. And then we started putting those, like, it was almost like a couple $1,000s towards our debt at the end because we were just being so aggressive. And we started putting that money towards other financial goals and in different investing vehicles and stuff like that. And our money was just growing. So I think that paying off the debt is the biggest wealth killer for you. And it's the biggest wealth generator for those that are taking your interest payments, right? So think about it like that. Like, everyone talks about compounding interest, but no one wants to talk about negative compounding when you're in debt. People seem to forget about compounding when it's negative. School.com/debt, Dollar Discipline University. Come on in. Uh, let's have a conversation. I'd love to be able to see how I can help you and get you a win like Janine. Okay. And again, everything's free in here, including my time. So I'll see you in there soon. I know it. If you, especially if you've made it this far in the live stream, like you gotta join. It's totally free, and I appreciate you if you're seeing this. So every Thursday night, guys, 7:30 p.m. Eastern. After I put the kiddos down to bed, I'm going live, talking to you guys, trying to help. See how I can help people with their finances. See how I can help share strategies that have worked for me in my finances and me and my wife's finances. But I want to hear from you. So whether you're on now or you're watching this later, what kind of things, what kind of questions do you have? What kind of problems are you facing? These are the kinds of things that I want to hear from you, because I want to make things that you feel, would feel very valuable if you were to like get a lesson on it or hear something on it. Because right now I'm making videos that I think people need to hear. Sorry. And possibly want to hear, but I want to hear from you to like actually confirm that. So if you're still watching this or you watch this later, you've made it all the way here. I appreciate you. Let me know what you're struggling with, how I can help. Dollar Discipline University. And I'll see you every Thursday, 7:30 p.m. Eastern. Have a good one.